Landrace strains are the original wild varieties of cannabis that develop naturally in specific regions of the world. Unlike modern hybrids, landraces weren't bred in labs or grow rooms. They naturally adapted over centuries to their local environment. And in some parts of Africa, the landrace strains are long tall sativas like the Malawi gold and Durban poison, which grew under intense sun near the equator. Also, South American strains such as the Colombian gold thrive in tropical climates. And each of these land races carry unique traits, flavor, growth patterns, and chemical profiles, which are shaped by geography, climate, and human tradition. Today, most commercial cannabis is a mix of different genetics, but landrace strains are seen as the pure ancestors, kind of like a living link to the plant's roots, and they are valued not just for history but for preserving genetic diversity that breeders may need for the future. Before today's modern hybrids, cannabis started as pure landrace strains that are unique to their regions, shaped by culture, climate, and tradition. For instance, in Asian landrace regions is where you find in countries like Afghanistan and Pakistan, which is the Hindu Kush region, and are famous for short, resin-heavy indicas, which have adapted to harsh mountain climates, and these strains are traditionally used for hashish. And in countries like India, specifically northern India, in areas like Himachal Pradesh, Malana and Kashmir, is where you find classic hash plants. And in parts of southern India, in areas like Kerala and Tamil Nadu, is where tall tropical sativas grow. And in these areas, cannabis has a deep cultural connection with spirituality and rituals. And Nepal is known for mountain land races that have adapted to high altitudes, and this country is also known for producing temple bowl hash. Thailand is famous for its Thai sativas that are said to be fruity smelling, with some having a spicy aroma with uplifting effects. And in countries like Laos and Cambodia is where the Southeast Asian sativas originate from, which are often known for their citrusy smell and energetic and psychedelic effects. Countries like Myanmar, Burma are where you find rare sativa land races, but are less documented but still are significant in local traditions. And lastly, in China, in the Yunnan province, you'll find cannabis strains which have unique broad leaves but are not widely spread across the world, but some of its genetics are used in breeding. Asia gave us the Kush indicas from the mountains and tropical sativas from the south that has shaped almost every modern hybrid strain. Although cannabis is not native to Africa and was introduced from trade routes from Asia to the Indian Ocean, it then diversified locally. And over time, in different African ecological zones, cannabis adapted and formed regionally distinct land races. And the southern African zones are especially important as a secondary cradle of cannabis evolution in Africa. And in many regions like southern and southeastern Africa, produced land races such as Durban poison, Swazi gold, and Zamal from the Mauritius region, which are tall sativa plants with slender leaflets that have adapted to warm climates. And Durban poison is perhaps the best known African landrace internationally. And the Swazi gold is locally famous in Eswatini for its potency. Zamal is associated with Mauritius in the Indian Ocean region, known for its humidity resistance. And in central southern Africa, land races like the Malawi gold are found there. From the Salima region of Malawi, one of the top classic African sativas in reputation, and is often grown in remote upland hilly terrain. In Eastern African or Ethiopian regions, Ethiopian land races, although there is limited documentation of these strains, but strains like the Highland Ethiopian sativa landrace is found in the Oromia regions. where you'll find plants that grow tall up to 2 to 4 meters with thick, vigorous branches and is resistant to harsh conditions. And because East Africa forms a bridge between African, Arabian, and Asian zones, some land races there may carry intermediate traits. In Northern African or Maghreb region include strains like Ketama from Morocco and strains from countries like Algeria, Tunisia, and Libya, though they are often grouped with their Middle Eastern cousins and are more resinous and indica dominant, and are also known for being used to produce hash, and these strains are distinct from the more widely known sativas from other parts of Africa. African land races are crucial to cannabis genetic diversity and heritage. In Middle Eastern regions, in countries like Lebanon, Turkey, and Iran, are regions famous for hashish traditions, with strains like the Lebanese Red and Bekaa Valley strains, but Middle Eastern landrace strains are primarily associated with the Hindu Kush mountain range on the border of Afghanistan, Pakistan, and northern India, including varieties like Afghani Kush, Hindu Kush, Lashkar Gras, Mazari Sharif, and Chitral. These strains are known for being durable and indica dominant and are often used as the foundation for breeding programs due to their high resin and keef production, making them ideal for hashish tradition. In South American and Caribbean regions, you get land races like the Colombian Gold, Acapulco Gold from Mexico, Panama Red, and Jamaican strains that include Lamb's Bread and King's Bread, which are known for their sativa dominance and energizing effects. These are tropical equatorial sativas that have become legendary in the 1960s and 70s counterculture. And in European and Russian regions, the primary landrace strains are Cannabis ruderalis, which are native to Central and Eastern Europe and Russia, and these landraces are known for their auto-flowering traits and low THC levels. While the term landrace can also refer to local, natural breeding population in other European regions, ruderalis are the most prominent example associated with the broader parts of the European and Russian region that have adapted to its specific climate conditions. And since they are not known for their psychoactive properties, Europe and Russia historically developed hemp land races used for rope, textiles, breeding, and oil, showing the broad adaptation of cannabis as a crop worldwide. From the Hindu Kush mountains to the African equator, the Middle East deserts to South American jungles, landrace strains are the indigenous cannabis varieties shaped by their environment and culture, and are the pure ancestors of modern hybrids. Landraces became hybrids through the travel and trade in the 1960s and 1970s. As cannabis culture spread globally, travelers and collectors brought seeds from places like Afghanistan, Mexico, Colombia, Thailand, back to North America and Europe. Selective crossbreeding by growers who crossed landrace strains with each other to combine desirable traits, for example, mixing the fast-flowering resinous indicas from the Hindu Kush with the tall sativas with uplifting effects from equatorial regions. And the goal here was to balance yield, potency, flavor, and adaptability from both strains. Then the rise of hybrids grew as these international crosses produced the first hybrids, blending genetics that would never naturally meet in the wild. For instance, famous early hybrids like skunk or haze became the global norm as they offered faster growth, stronger effects, and more variety. But this also meant that pure landraces became rarer as they were diluted by crossbreeding. So landraces became hybrids when global travel brought indigenous cannabis strains together as breeders crossed them to blend traits like potency, flowering time, and flavor, thus creating the modern cannabis varieties we see today, but also putting more pure landraces at risk of disappearing. The preservation efforts that are being made by seed banks and genetic libraries, where organizations and researchers collect and store original landrace seeds to safeguard biodiversity, and the cultural keepers in some regions where local farmers continue to grow traditional strains as part of their heritage and rituals, and the academic and agricultural research where universities and NGOs document landrace genetics for medicine, food, and environmental resilience. One of the biggest threats to landraces in hybridization and cross-pollination. As hybrids spread worldwide, they cross-pollinate with traditional strains, diluting the pure genetics of landraces. Also, globalization and commercialization plays a role as one of the threats to landraces, as the demand for higher yield, high THC plants has pushed landraces aside, making them less economically attractive to farmers. And the legal and political factors in some regions where cannabis eradication programs destroyed fields of indigenous strains, causing irreversible loss. And lastly, the climate change and habitat loss, as shifting weather patterns threaten the environments where landraces naturally thrived for centuries. Landraces are under threat from crossbreeding, globalization, and environmental change, and preserving them through seed banks, cultural traditions, and research is crucial, because once a landrace is lost, a unique piece of history is gone forever.